This is the Best or Worst podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Koji Stephen Sakai and M. Martin Mapoma.
All righty. Welcome. This is Koji.
And this is Martin.
And this is the Best or Worst podcast. And this is episode number 63.
63. It's crazy.
I know,
it's awesome.
Crazy. And I didn't have to look it up. I looked it up before. So now it's a lot more. See, it became professional within one episode there. All right. Our society is so focused on celebrity. We sometimes forget that regular people lead interesting lives too. Best or worst moment of your life. Hosts Koji, that's me. And Martin, that's you.
That's me.
Are here to let your story out. We put people on the spot. What are you going to hear? It could be funny. It could be sad. It could be poignant. You'll know when we know. Best or Worst is now a twice weekly podcast. On Tuesdays, that was 2 days ago, we got to know our guests. And on Thursdays, that's today, we find out their best or worst moment. So we welcome back our friend TK, who's a comedian, writer, everything. And I guess this is the point where we're going to ask TK about his best or worst moment. Martin, think about it. I'm going to tell TK the rules. And then you can decide what we want to do. So TK,
all right. I already know.
Wait.
But go ahead.
I haven't told you the rules yet. Okay.
Go ahead.
Wait, I don't know the rules.
Well, the rule is that, we ask people not to choose like things that are obvious, like have your baby being born is going to be obviously one of your best moments, or being married, or right. Those are the easy things. Unless there's something like fantastic, right, or something crazy that's different than normal. So Martin, with that being said, what do you want to hear from TK? Best or worst?
I want to hear TK's best. He seems like a really cool guy. He reminds me of some people that I know out here. So.
Oh, you think all white people look alike? Is that what you're saying?
I do. Is that bad? No. No.
All right. So TK, what is your best moment or moment?
My best. When my daughter was born, Koji. Despite that was like my third best. It's fine. This is a really tough one because I'm like, which part of my life do I pull from? But I'll say it's kind of a two-parter, because when I was a kid, especially a young kid, like elementary school, I feel like I didn't know my place at all. I was very quiet, very shy, very like kind of afraid of everything. And then I switched schools in 5th grade. And on the first day there, I remember one kid stood out who was like clearly like, okay, that's the funny kid in class. And I said something and I made him laugh. And I was like, oh shit, am I funny? Like, what? Hold on. Like, do I, cause I was, you can't tell Martin, but I'm a shorter man. So I was a real small kid too. So I was very like, I just didn't know what to do with myself. And I was like, oh, there's my thing. I can make people laugh. And that moment was like, it just changed who I was forever. It like my drive became to make people laugh. I started watching comedy. My dad is a funny guy. My grandfather really funny. So like, I just didn't put it together. I didn't think I was anything like them because I wasn't that outgoing.
Oh, wow.
So for me, I think it was just kind of coming into my own as a kid then and realizing now that like that was the moment that changed the direction and kind of sent me to where I am now.
Wow.
I think, and the second moment would be probably as an adult, like getting into the writers union was like the affirmation that I didn't waste my whole life trying to get to this thing. And then only to find out like, oh no, you're not going to make it, dude. Like,
oh, wow. That's
just,
cool. Just
getting that little bit was like, okay, this is legit. It's my job now. I can actually say I'm a comedy writer and not be like, a lot of the people in LA who might be saying that and embellishing a bit, Yeah. So for me, it's just kind of like this whole journey coming from that moment of making that one dude laugh was just like, it changed everything.
You remember the joke you used?
That's exactly what I was going to ask him.
I don't. I wish I did. I mean, I sadly, 5th grade, it was probably at someone else's expense. I think somebody did something stupid and I just made a comment and he laughed and I didn't know I was that guy. I never spoke up really before that. I don't know what made me do it in that moment. And then and him and I then became really close friends and like, I feel like he helped me hone my craft.
Are you guys still friends?
No, not really. We kind of lost touch. We were it was one of those friendships where you're just like super tight for a year as a kid. You know what I mean? Like I was new at that school. We got real close. And then when we went to middle school in 6th grade, we didn't have any classes together or anything. We stayed friendly, but wasn't really a lifelong friend or anything, but I owe him everything.
It's really funny that you had this moment, because I was actually thinking I had the opposite moment. So when I changed schools in 10th grade, I was the class clown, and from like middle school all through high school, I was the class clown. I made fun of people. I bullied kids. That was terrible. And then when I changed school, yeah, I was super mean to people. I just make fun of them until they cried. Then
that's humor as a kid, honestly. Sometimes
it is.
Shitty.
It was.
I feel bad about a lot.
How did you not get your ass beat?
Oh, I fought all the time. But then when I changed schools, when I went to a new school and nobody knew who I was, I realized I didn't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I stopped trying to be. It was actually the opposite. I stopped trying to be funny. I was like, I don't need to be funny anymore. I don't need to be this like class clown guy. I can just like shut up and just do whatever I want to do and not. And so it's like, it's funny because when I heard you, I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting, because I went the opposite way. I was like, I don't need to try to be this funny guy anymore. I don't need to try to make fun of people. I don't need to.
I think that clicks when you get a little bit older too, though. Like for me, realizing I was funny was young, and then somewhere, I think probably about halfway through high school, I realized I didn't like the way I was funny a lot of the time, because it was always giving people shit. And, that's what you do in school, especially back then. It was a lot more forgiven. But I think I realized probably halfway through high school, like maybe only do that to your friends who know it's coming from a good place. Don't like shit on people just to make other people laugh.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things where you look back and you're like, was I the class clown or was I an asshole?
Yeah. No, I knew I was an asshole. I knew I was a bully. I remember in 7th grade. In 7th grade, I remember or 8th grade. I had a teacher. I took this class called communications. I was in a prep school, and the teacher kept telling me and all the other students or the other kids out were making fun of people. She kept saying homophobia is very unattractive. Homophobia is very unattractive. And at the time, I thought it was the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life, because like she used the word homophobia, and I just like didn't know what that meant, or I didn't care what it meant. And back then, obviously people weren't like the way they are now, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking it was super funny, but then like that's the only thing I remember from 8th grade was that my teacher told me homophobia was unattractive. And as an adult, obviously it's like not a joke anymore, and it never really was. But it was just like at the time I was so immature. And then
wow.
But it stuck with me that she said that, and it really it made me think. I mean, like later, probably my college or even earlier, I kind of already realized how bad it was, or what I was doing was wrong. And kind of
that's gotta be the toughest age for teachers to deal with, like kids in middle school especially. It's like, man, you're just you're you're like mostly just pieces of shit trying to just step on each other to like climb the ladder and be accepted. It's awful.
Yeah, I've known a few teachers throughout my life, and I've given a couple of because as an actor in Chicago, I gave a couple of talks at some schools, and let me tell you something, man. I love the 1st and 2nd graders and kindergartners. Fucking middle school, man. Yeah. Those kids, I'll never forget. I'll be real quick. I went to a school to give a talk, and this is the Midwest. And I'm not gonna mention the school or who it was, but I went to give a talk at the school. And as I was walking the halls after giving the talk, I gave the talk on Africa, where I'm from Zambia, and asked kids if they had any questions. And just one question, and these kids didn't say a word, and all their faces looked like they wanted to get out of there. But I'll never forget. After we got done, I was walking the hall with the teacher who had brought me there to talk to the kids, and he said to the kid, "Oh, so where's so-and-so from class?" And the kid's like, "Oh, he got suspended." And the kid just nonchalantly, she's like, "Why did he get suspended?" And the kid nonchalantly goes, "Oh, because he told everyone he wanted to butt rape you." I was just like,
that's why, that old suspension.
And this is a kid, man, talking to a grown person, and he said it like it was like, "Can I have a glass of water?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, and she goes, "Middle school, man." And every teacher I've known since that day, they're like, middle school kids, hormones are raging, egos are raging, they're bonkers.
Well, also, I subbed middle school and elementary and high school, but the thing about middle school kids, the worst is that They're too young. They're too young to act mature, and they're too old to be scared. Like first, second grade, third grade, I could scare them still into being like, I'm the adult and you're the kid, and you have to shut up, right?
Yeah.
Old people, like high school kids, seniors and juniors, I could be like, I'll treat you like an adult if you act like an adult, right? And then usually they'll try to act like an adult. Whether they're actually adults or not is a separate matter, but they'll try. The middle school kids are like, they're like, fuck you, I know everything, but then still be immature and like making jokes about butt rape or something, you know?
It's a dangerous time. I remember there was a teacher in my middle school, and I still don't know how much legitimacy there is to the story, but supposedly this art teacher like choked a kid, or like just, he didn't choke him unconscious, but he definitely got his hands around his neck.
Wow.
And I remember that kid, and it was 7th grade, and I remember even then thinking like, yeah, he might have deserved that. Like that kid was brutal.
Yeah.
He was brutal.
Yeah.
They can just destroy you.
Well, I just I saw a video recently of a teacher who got into a full-on fist fight with one of his students, and he beat the shit out of that kid, and he totally got off because this kid was going at him so hard for like 5 minutes. 5 minutes in the video, and I'm like, okay, there comes a point when you just gotta say, you know what? And it was crazy.
There should be a certain amount of beatings allowed in middle school. Teachers should have like, you get one beating a year. It's like
the purge. It's like purge for teachers. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
One day, you don't know what day it's going to be, but it's one day the teacher can do anything they want to the kids.
It's like throwing the challenge flag.
They're gonna, you know, when school's in session, they're gonna be in their homeroom. They're gonna shut all the doors, lock all the doors, and announce today is the purge. Those kids are gonna be like, what?
Although to be fair, also the male teachers in high school and college tend to get married later or get divorced earlier, and it's because their perception of beauty is younger, right? If you're around like 16-year-old girls or 20-year-old girls, and you're like 45, and then you look over and your wife is like 45 years old, and you're like around these like young women who are like 16 who are like bursting with energy, you're gonna be like, well, you look old. Right. And so it happens a lot.
Why your wife stopped letting you sub? Is that what?
Wait, Koji. What was this? Say this again. Are you serious?
That teachers, especially like college professors or high school teachers.
Yeah, I would think college professor seems like a dangerous gig for any man trying to maintain a relationship.
Because that's
or just being a filmmaker. I mean, I give my advice to my students all the time that, you know, the best thing you could do is not get married before you make your first movie. Go on the road with your first movie and just have fun, and like not worry about being married, not worried about like any of these kinds of things. And that way you can kind of get that out, because if you're married beforehand, it's like, you know, it becomes more challenging. But anyway, let's get back to this is not about our show. This is TK show. So if at that time in 5th grade, that kind of changed you a lot. Like, did you know you wanted to be a comedian at that point? Was that kind of where you wanted to be a comedian, or did it kind of
that was definitely when I first started trying to figure out what I could do with being funny, because I had never felt like I felt when I made the classroom laugh. Yeah. I just hadn't had that before. And suddenly at this new school, I had a kind of an identity where it was like, oh, I don't really know anything about him, but I guess he's kind of funny. So that was like all I thought about. I started writing then. I always loved reading. I was super into Goosebumps back then. So
cool.
I started writing like knockoff R.L. Stine type stories that were very much like just slightly different versions of what he'd already written. But I just thought like I could do something like this. So it was all like, it was right then when I started thinking about doing that with my life. Because before that, I was going to be in the NBA. That's it. And if I'm being honest, probably for a few years after that too. But like, I started being real about like, all right, so if that doesn't work out for this white kid who's going to top out at 5'8", maybe I should start thinking about other things.
Although to be fair, you could probably shoot better than Frank Ntilikina. Is that your point guard's name?
Oh, Frank.
That guy's a terrible. I mean,
he's a soccer player. We're just drafting soccer players. Like, he's a good athlete, though. What?
I mean, he's good at defense, but
he has to learn basketball.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was definitely the time that I started thinking about like, how can I do something with this new thing that I love so much?
Yeah. Well, okay.
Wow.
The question I always like to ask comedians is, in a fight in school, there's three kinds of reactions, right? As a comedian, there's one that you make them laugh, you run away, or you fight. Which one were you?
I was definitely make them laugh. That was the other thing, was like, so you know, once you realize you're funny, and then you don't quite realize you're also really small, and that might not be a good combination when you're giving people shit. I quickly got into a lot of confrontations. I remember there was this one really tall, lanky kid in my class, and I used to just kind of poke and prod at him. And one day he just turned and looked at me in a way where I was like, oh no, this guy's gonna fuck me up. And my first gut instinct was like to make him laugh and just start. I remember I started talking about like, yeah, you could beat me up, but like, what's that going to look like? You're a foot taller than me. You're going to whip my ass. It's going to be terrible for everyone. And he didn't continue. So I just feel like, yeah, it was definitely try to make people laugh, avoid confrontation at all costs.
Wow.
Interesting.
No, I was a fighter. I used to get picked on in school until I got into my first fight.
Yeah.
In I think it was sixth grade, and I got into a fight with he's actually a good friend of mine now to this day. And then for like sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, they still used to pick on me a little bit. And then I had a really big blow up with another guy who I'm still friends with, and I remember busted his. I was a really bad. I had a really short temper in school, and I was that kind of guy who, if I actually had to get into a fight, I just lost it completely. Yeah. I remember I gave one guy,
That's what you got to do as a kid. You got to throw down the hammer, man.
Because I used to get ridiculed because I was the kind of the class clown. I always talked. I never shut up. And my school, there were a lot of really smart kids, and they would tend to like, they would treat me like as if I was like the village idiot. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize. And when I finally realized it, I was pissed. I was like, wait a minute, I'm not your pincushion, so to speak. I gave one guy a black eye that he had for like a month. I felt so bad. He was trying to pull me off one of the other guys that that I was beating up, and I elbowed him, and he had this huge. I think he still hates me to this day. That's but funny. People stopped fucking with me after that.
Yeah,
So
I feel like that's what you got to do. I surrounded myself with large friends also. So like I felt like I had protected.
Had a few of those too.
I would give people shit, and then if it got too real, one of my friends would have to step in and be like, "Don't mess with him," because God knows I wasn't gonna. I thought I was tough, but I was definitely afraid of an actual fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, my method was I threw the first punch right away because I was small. Like I was 5 feet tall until 18.
What?
Then I grew a lot in my senior year, but I was super small, so like I was just like, fuck, I'm gonna like kill this guy in the beginning because if I don't, there's no way I could stand up and fight somebody. Right?
Oh yeah, you gotta like, as a small, quick dude, you gotta get your shots in and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, exactly. That was like my thing.
Koji.
How can people follow you? How can people see the work and see your comedy?
So at TK Kelly Comedy on Instagram and Twitter. I'm not super active. I have some issues with social media. I don't know if you guys have heard. It's not good for us.
You saw the Netflix documentary too?
No, I can't even watch that because I'm like, what are you going to tell me that? Like, I know it's terrible.
It blew my mind actually because I thought I knew about it, but it was
I've heard it's
really,
and I know I'm going to watch it, and it's just going to infuriate me further. But yeah,
I have to watch it.
I'm on the social media a bit. No more Facebook. I axed that shit. Get out of here. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It was just like a week ago, one of my relatives said some ignorant shit, and I was like, "That's it. I'm out. I'm fucking leaving."
It's always a relative, man.
Yep,
it's always a relative,
man. But so check me out on there. Check out the Movie Night podcast. It's on all things comedy. We haven't made an episode since March, but there are nearly 300 to catch up on if you feel like it. So check those out.
Wow.
And then season 12 of Tosh.0 just restarted. We're doing 10 episodes from I think 2 weeks ago to November. So we'll have a run of new stuff, and then we'll hopefully go back to being rerun a million times a day like before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great.
No kidding.
Well, thank you so much. This week we're going to be talking. This episode we want people to text a friend about the show. Tell them that tell them what they liked about the show, and make sure to have them subscribe. It's really helpful to get as many people to watch, download, view.
It's a labor of love.
The labor of love for us. So please do that. Go to www.best or worst pod. And thank you, TK, and thank you, Martin, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Koji.
I really
TK,
appreciate
great
it,
to
guys.
meet you.
You too,
Bye,
man.
guys.
Take care.
All right.
Later, guys.
Bye.